The Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly was massive, almost like a small city inside a building. Thousands of lights floated across the ceiling, mimicking stars. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy sat in wide, curved rows. Some had scales, some had fur, others had wings or metallic skin. Each wore colorful robes that showed their world's pride. At the center of it all stood Captain William Carter, Earth's representative. He wore a clean, dark blue uniform. No medals, no fancy decorations, just the Earth emblem. A blue and green sphere, stitched over his heart. His eyes, cold and steady, scanned the crowded hall. He wasn't here to beg, not anymore. For decades, Earth had fought to earn a seat at the table. Humans had traveled the stars, built peaceful colonies, and shared their knowledge. But the Assembly always treated them like outsiders. Useful when needed, ignored when not. Today was supposed to be the final meeting. Carter had prepared speeches, arguments, and proposals. He had brought Earth's best diplomats and thinkers. They had hoped reason would win. But Veller Drix, the Supreme Chancellor, crushed that hope in a few sharp words. Earth's ambitions, Drix said, his voice cold and sharp, are amusing. You are newcomers, clumsy and proud. You must learn your place, or be left behind. The words hit the hall like a thunderclap. Some delegates chuckled. Others didn't even bother to hide their smirks. Captain Carter stood silently for a moment. He could feel the anger boiling inside him. But he kept his face calm. He stepped forward to the central podium. His boots clicked softly against the shining black floor. He looked straight at Veller Drix. He spoke not with anger, but with finality. Earth came here with open hands, Carter said, his voice steady. We offered our knowledge, our friendship, and our strength. You answered with insults. The hall grew quieter. Some delegates leaned forward, sensing something was about to happen. Carter continued. We will not be treated as servants. We will not be ruled by fear. Today Earth leaves the Assembly. A wave of gasps and murmurs rippled through the hall. Some stood in shock. Others shouted angrily. Carter turned and nodded once to his team. Without a word they rose and followed him. They walked out with heads held high, ignoring the angry voices behind them. Outside, the massive assembly station floated above a dying red star. Shuttles from Earth's fleet were waiting nearby. Their ships, sleek and silver, stood ready to leave. Carter entered the shuttle first. As the doors slid shut behind him, he looked one last time at the station. A place that could have been a symbol of unity had become a symbol of arrogance. He felt no regret. On board the flagship Valiant, Carter took the command seat. He gave the order without hesitation. Set course for Earth. Engage. The stars blurred into streaks as the ship jumped into hyperspace, leaving the Assembly and its broken promises behind. The journey back to Earth was silent. Captain William Carter sat in the command chair of the Valiant, staring out at the endless stars. Around him, his officers worked quietly. No one needed to speak. They all knew what had happened. They all knew what it meant. Earth had turned its back on the Galactic Assembly. As the ship crossed into Earth's territory, Carter finally stood and left the bridge. He needed to prepare for what came next. News of the walkout spread faster than light. Across hundreds of worlds, Assembly delegates argued and blamed each other. Allies turned into enemies overnight. Trade routes that had stood for centuries collapsed within days. Small wars broke out on distant planets. The Assembly had always depended on Earth's technology, Earth's stability. Without it, everything began to fall apart. On Earth, the reaction was mixed. Some people cheered in the streets. They waved Earth's flag and shouted Carter's name. To them he was a hero, the man who had stood up against the powerful and said, "Enough." Others were afraid. Business leaders, scientists, and politicians filled news channels with warnings. They spoke of lost trade, angry alien governments, and the possibility of war. They accused Carter of acting too quickly, of risking Earth's future, At the United Earth Command Center in New Geneva, Carter stood before the council, 12 of Earth's most powerful leaders. Their faces were tight with concern. "You have created a dangerous situation, Captain," President Elena Zhou said, her voice sharp. "The assembly is in chaos. We are isolated. Do you understand the risk?" Carter nodded calmly. "I understand. But I also understand that respect cannot be demanded while kneeling." The room fell silent. No one argued. Deep down they knew he was right. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Galactic Assembly, Velar Drix fumed. The Supreme Chancellor had lost control. Worlds that had once obeyed him without question now demanded reforms. Minor races talked of rebellion. Trade guilds refused orders. Old rivalries, long hidden by Assembly rules, rose again. And at the center of this storm was Earth, silent, proud, and watching from a distance. Traix knew he had to act. He called an emergency council meeting. Sitting in the shadows of the assembly hall, Drix spoke to his closest advisors. His voice was low and full of anger. "Earth must be brought back," he said, "by reason, by pressure, or by force if necessary." Across the stars, messages flew toward Earth. Some were polite offers to negotiate. Others were blunt threats. Captain Carter received them all. He read each one carefully, but answered none. Not yet. He stood in his office, looking down at the blue planet turning slowly beneath him. Earth had a choice to make: submit and return to the Assembly's chains, or stand alone, free but vulnerable. Carter knew the galaxy was watching, waiting, plotting. He also knew one simple truth: freedom always comes at a cost, and Earth was ready to pay it. Captain William Carter stood alone on the observation deck of the Valiant. The vastness of space stretched before him. Stars blinked softly against the black, distant and cold. Earth glowed like a blue jewel below, beautiful and fragile. He pressed a hand against the glass. For the first time since the walkout, doubt crept into his mind. Had he made a mistake? The Assembly had been corrupt and arrogant, yes, but it had also kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart. Without Earth, chaos was already spreading. Worlds were turning on each other. Trade had slowed. Old hatreds were waking up. Was Earth ready to stand alone? The door behind him slid open. It was Commander Riley, his second-in-command and oldest friend. "Thinking too much again?" Riley said with a small smile. Carter didn't turn. "Maybe." Riley walked up beside him. "You did what had to be done." Carter sighed. "Maybe. But what if the price is too high?" Riley shook his head. "Respect has a price. Always has. Always will." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. Later that day, Carter met with his senior advisors in the main conference room. General Sophia Trent, head of Earth's defense forces, spoke first. "The Assembly is weak without us, but desperation makes enemies dangerous. Several minor worlds are already contacting us," added Dr. Malik, chief diplomatic advisor. "They want to know Earth's intentions." "Some are scared," Trent said. "Others see an opportunity." Carter listened carefully. He had expected this. Earth's strength had always been its independence, its ability to adapt. But now, Earth had become a symbol, a flag for others who were tired of the Assembly's rule. "We cannot rush," Carter said firmly. "No alliances, not yet. We must show strength. We must be patient." The team nodded. They trusted him, but he saw the tension in their faces. Outside the safety of Earth's space, the galaxy was turning darker by the hour. Back in his private quarters, Carter sat at his desk, going through endless reports, news of small skirmishes, economic collapses, and rising rebellions filled the screens. The Assembly was breaking apart faster than he had imagined. A message from President Zhou flashed onto his communicator. A simple question: what is Earth's next move? Carter leaned back in his chair. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the hum of the ship steady him. He knew the answer. Earth's next move was simple: Stay strong, stay silent, and wait. The galaxy would come to them, sooner than anyone expected. As he opened his eyes, Carter felt the last of his doubt melt away. The choice had been made. There was no turning back now. Freedom was never given freely. It was won and defended. Captain Carter was ready. The days after Earth's withdrawal were filled with silence from the Galactic Assembly. A cold, heavy silence that stretched across the stars. But Captain William Carter knew it wouldn't last. He sat in the briefing room of the Valiant, studying the latest transmissions. His officers gathered around the table. Faces tense, eyes sharp. "They're getting desperate," Commander Riley said, tapping a message that scrolled across the screen. "Velardrix has issued a formal demand." Carter leaned forward, reading the words carefully. "Return to the Assembly. Submit to new terms, or face economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and possible military action." The threat was clear. OB crushed. Carter looked up at his officers. "How many messages like this?" "7," said Dr. Malik, frowning. "All from different assembly leaders. Drix's message is the strongest," General Trent added. "There are also rumors. Some assembly fleets are gathering near the borders of Earth's space." Carter nodded slowly. It was just as he had expected. "They're trying to scare us," he said. "Pressure us into crawling back." The room fell silent. "They think Earth will bend under fear," Carter said. His voice was calm, almost cold. "They're wrong." Later that day, a formal envoy ship from the Assembly arrived at the edge of Earth's defense perimeter. The ship was allowed to dock under strict security. The envoy was a tall, thin alien named Minister Kavos. His skin shimmered like polished metal. His voice was smooth, practiced. He stood before Carter and the United Earth Council, carrying Velardrix's ultimatum in person. "You have much to lose," Kavos said, bowing slightly. "Isolation would cripple your trade, your technology, your people's future." Carter listened without showing emotion. "You do not have to be enemies," Kavos continued. "Submit peacefully, and Earth will be welcomed back with proper humility." Carter rose slowly from his chair. His words were simple. "Earth will not return to chains." The minister's smooth face tightened. "You cannot survive alone." Carter stepped closer, his voice low but strong. "Watch us." Without waiting for a response, Carter turned and walked out of the room. The council followed. The message was clear. Earth would not bow. Kavos returned to his ship, his mission a failure. Across the galaxy, minor worlds were watching. Some cheered in secret. Others sent hidden messages to Earth, asking for talks, for help, for something new. Carter knew Earth's stand had sparked something bigger than he had imagined. Hope, maybe, or rebellion. The Assembly, however, saw only defiance, and they were preparing for war. Back aboard the Valiant, Carter stood once more at the wide windows, gazing out at the stars. The galaxy was shifting. The old order was crumbling. A new one was waiting to be born, but only if Earth stayed strong. He clenched his fists behind his back. The real battle had just begun. The tension in Earth's leadership halls was rising with every passing day. Captain William Carter knew it was only a matter of time before the Assembly pushed harder, or before Earth found an answer of its own. That answer came in a message coded deep within layers of security. It was not from the Assembly. It was from the smaller, forgotten worlds. The ones who had been ignored and mistreated for centuries. The message was simple. "We seek what Earth now stands for. We wish to talk." Carter held the message in his hand as he sat quietly in his office. His heart beat faster. He had expected anger from the Assembly. He had not expected hope from others. A secret meeting was arranged. Far from Earth's main fleet, at a hidden station orbiting a dead moon, Carter and a small team arrived quietly. No formal suits, no flags, no grand speeches. Just men and women who believed in a better future. Waiting for them were leaders from 6 different worlds, none powerful, none rich, but all determined. A small fox-like alien named Vora spoke first. "For too long we have lived under the Assembly's boot," she said, her voice clear. We see what Earth has done. You dared to say no. Now we dare to. Another. A stone-skinned being named Torin rumbled. The assembly fears Earth because Earth remembers freedom. Carter listened carefully. He asked questions. He measured their words. He had learned long ago that promises spoken in desperation were not always real. Hours passed. Stories were shared. Agreements were whispered. In the end, Carter stood up. We cannot replace one empire with another, he said. This must be different, built on respect, built on trust. Vora nodded fiercely. An accord, not an assembly. A bond, not a chain. Carter thought for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Then let's build it together, he said simply. One by one the others placed their hands atop his. It was not signed with ink or bound by law. It was sealed by a simple, quiet agreement to stand side by side. The new Galactic Accord was born. Back aboard the Valiant, Carter gazed at the empty dark beyond the moon. He knew what would come next. The assembly would see this new movement as a threat. They would not stand by and watch their control slip away. But Carter no longer stood alone. Earth was no longer isolated. It was a beacon. The galaxy, once ruled by fear, now had a choice. And it had started with a single word: no. The formation of the new Galactic Accord shook the galaxy to its core. At first, the assembly tried to ignore it. Then they tried to deny it. Finally, they tried to crush it with threats. But it was too late. News spread faster than any ship could travel. Minor worlds, once loyal to the assembly out of fear, now looked to Earth with new hope. Rebellions sparked. Trade guilds broke old agreements. Even some assembly allies began to question their loyalty. Velar Drix, the Supreme Chancellor, was furious. In a desperate move, he sent a personal message to Captain William Carter. Unlike before, this message was different. No threats, no insults, only a request. Meet me. Talk. There is still a chance for peace. Carter agreed, but only on neutral ground. A small abandoned station, orbiting a cold, dead planet. No weapons, no guards, only words. The meeting was simple. Drix arrived first, tall and proud as always, but there was a strain in his face. The weight of a crumbling empire showed in his stiff movements. Carter entered, calm and steady. He wore the same dark uniform, plain except for the Earth emblem over his heart. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the empty room. Drix broke the silence. You have caused a fire that will burn us all, he said, voice low. Carter didn't flinch. No, the assembly's arrogance lit the fire. We only refuse to be its fuel. Drix took a step closer. His voice softened. Come back. Earth can have more power. A permanent seat at the High Council, special trade rights, protection. Carter shook his head slowly. You don't want partners, he said. You want pawns. You will bring war, Drix hissed. Carter's answer was quiet, but it carried all the strength of Earth behind it. Freedom is worth the risk. Drix's shoulders sagged slightly. For the first time the mighty Chancellor looked small. Carter turned and walked away without another word. He didn't need to listen anymore. The decision had been made. Back aboard the Valiant, Carter watched as the first ships of the new Galactic Accord approached Earth. Small, worn vessels from worlds that had been ignored for too long. Ships that carried hope more than firepower. It wasn't an army. It was something stronger, unity. Across the galaxy, messages flooded in. More worlds wanted to join, not out of fear, but by choice. The assembly was dying. A new future was rising, slow, uncertain, but free. Standing on the bridge, Carter allowed himself a small, rare smile. Earth had not only survived, it had changed the galaxy. Earth's skies were busier than they had ever been. From every corner of the galaxy, ships arrived. Sleek cruisers, battered freighters, small scouts. They came not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as partners. Each carried leaders, diplomats, and envoys ready to build something new. Captain William Carter stood at the main docking platform of Earth's Grand Embassy. The air was filled with the hum of engines, the sharp buzz of languages, and the low, steady rhythm of hope. The new galactic accord had begun. Inside the embassy, the great hall was prepared. It was not as grand as the assembly's shining halls, but it was real. Wood from Earth's forests lined the walls. Light poured from large windows that looked out over blue oceans. Delegates sat around a simple circular table. No high thrones, no golden chairs. Every seat was equal. Carter watched as old enemies shook hands, as isolated worlds found new friends, as small planets, long forgotten by the assembly, now had a voice. He took his seat last, not at the head, because there was no head. The first act of the new accord was simple: mutual respect, open trade, shared defense, and the right of every world to leave freely if they chose. There were no threats, no forced alliances, only a promise: together, not ruled; equal, not commanded. Carter signed his name carefully on the charter, then passed it along. Each delegate signed in turn. Some smiled, some fought tears. All understood they were part of history. Outside, crowds gathered in every major city on Earth. They watched the signing broadcast live, standing shoulder to shoulder. Humans, aliens, visitors, all witnessing the start of a new era. When the ceremony ended, Carter stepped out onto a wide balcony. The sun warmed his face. The crowd below roared with cheers. He raised his hand in greeting, but kept his words few. "We chose dignity," he said, his voice clear across the square. "We chose respect, and we chose freedom." The cheers grew louder, rolling like thunder across the city. As the celebrations continued, Carter walked quietly back into the embassy. He moved through the busy halls, past aides and diplomats. He found a quiet corner, where he could see the stars beginning to shine in the deepening sky. For a long moment, he stood there, thinking. The road ahead would not be easy. Mistakes would be made. Conflicts would come. But Earth had done something no one had believed possible. It had said no to fear. It had said yes to hope, and the galaxy had answered. Captain William Carter smiled to himself. The fight for respect had been long. The future they had built would be even longer. But it was their future. Finally, truly, free.